Delighted to be joined now by Paul Stewart, the drummer for the band The Feeling, currently on tour for the 12 Years at Home tour in support of the 12 Stops and Home debut record, which you came out with, sold over 1.5 million units worldwide, many hits that people would know on there. It's the 12th anniversary of that. It's almost like it was written, it was meant to be that this tour happened 12 years on.
Yeah, well, we were gonna do it after 10 years, and then actually thought that because of various other things that were going on, but we would take a little break and then wait for the 12 years and do it then. Kind of seemed to make sense. So.
Yeah, makes sort of sense. But you kind of had a sort of a brief hiatus, as it were, from 2016 live release, live album release there. But then sort of came back with a performance in 2017, and then did Carfest this year, and then straight to the tour. What was it which sort of changed things for you, rather than sort of waiting fully for those 2 years to expire before kind of coming back?
I think everyone, we sort of had roughly 18 months off, and then after that everyone was sort of keen to get back into it really. And I mean the previous, sort of prior to the break, we'd sort of had 10 years publicly since 12 Stops and Home came out, and we'd done 5 albums in that time. We'd done a festival run every summer for 10 years, and it just got to the point really where we were like, it'd be nice to have the summer off, and as soon as you start thinking that, then it means, well, if we've just released a record, then you can't release a record and not promote it over the summer, so that has the sort of knock-on effect of, well, we can't release anything yet, and then we're like, well, actually, let's take a little bit of a break. It's been quite a long time, and obviously we were a band for 10 years in one way or another before that first album came out, and then we actually, as The Feeling, we were sort of trying to get signed for sort of 2 or 3 years before we actually did, and all that kind of thing. So it was a long time.
Yeah.
Just constantly doing that, So yeah, everyone sort of took a break, did different things, and then we've all come back together to have a laugh now.
I was going to ask you about that, because you played with a couple of the guys for years before under a different name as well. You did covers out in France as well, and kind of the band evolved from that point. You know those guys from school as well, and obviously the other guys in The Feeling a long time now. Mm-hmm. What is that like in terms of the connection you have, the writing process that comes along with it? Being guys that have known each other for so long and played music together for so long with each other.
Yeah, that has a huge effect, I think, on the way that we can work together. It's like a kind of weird 5-way marriage of some kind, because we grew up together as well, and we grew up through school. Certainly myself, Kevin and Kieran all went to secondary school together, and then from 16 at college we met Dan and Richard as well. And so from that point on, really, we've all been mates, and because we grew up through the trying to get signed period, and then getting signed, and then doing everything else, we've been through it all together. So we've been on the same sort of path and the same trajectory in the same way, and I think that really helps. Bands who are formed from guys who've had different experiences of all those sorts of things, and some have been signed and some haven't, and some know what that life is like, because it's quite different from session work. And understanding the dynamic difference between being someone who's on a tour as a hired hand, and then someone who's actually part of the band, that's different too. So there's lots of kind of potential ways that you could maybe see things differently, and because we've all had the same experiences, pretty much we just don't. So we still get on.
And it's a band which is known for just some stellar pop hits as well. How is that sort of something which you developed, I suppose, as a band, and your process in terms of writing and getting together to come up with these tunes that have just been such good with a rock background but pop hits, just writing such tunes that connect, I suppose, so well with people, and so many chart-topping hits?
I think that it's definitely harder than it sounds to write songs like that, and Dan is the inception of pretty much everything in the band. There are some songs that come out of drunken jam sessions, but most of the time it tends to be something that Dan has started by himself, and then shows to us, and then we stick our oars in and do our best not to ruin it. But he's an incredibly talented writer. But together, I guess the biggest benefit of the fact that, again, of growing up together and being friends from that age is that it's your common interests that bring you together as musicians and friends anyway. Mm-hmm. And so we actually, although everyone has certain areas of music that they're going to go off into on their own, and it might only be me that likes one thing, and only Rich, bass player, who likes something else, but there's a huge common ground of things that we all love, and for the most part that is sort of classic pop music. and the likes of, you know, Queen and Fleetwood Mac and ABBA and the Beatles and, you know, all of these sort of, you know, renowned, brilliant songs that exist in the world. You know, I think we're all pretty much agreed and unanimous on when a song is brilliantly written, why that is, and then so kind of what you put in is what comes out again.
I read as well, correct me if I'm wrong, that a couple of those drummers from those bands are big influences on you and your playing as well, in terms of Mick Fleetwood and Ringo Starr and a couple of others as well, Phil Collins, I believe, as well, and things like that. So, in terms of their playing, how is, and I suppose serving song as well, in that sense, that those drummers are particularly renowned for, is that something which is particularly conscious in your efforts within the feeling?
Yeah, absolutely that. And the thing that I love about all of those guys is that they did it with real personality and a real identifiable kind of voice. Any of those drummers, if you hear them, there's something about the way that they play and the tone that they get and the nature of the parts that they construct, that you can instantly tell Roger Taylor, you know, Mick Fleetwood, Ringo, like you say, and Phil Collins, people like that. There's loads of more modern guys doing that as well. You know, Ronnie Vannucci from the Killers, I love. I forget his name now, but the guy from the 1975s, fantastic drummer, and I love the way that the parts that he puts together. That on the face of it, you think, what made you think of that? But he's beautifully played as well. He's great. So yeah, that's what I like. I think that's what draws me to a particular drummer is hearing the way that the part supports the song. Hopefully remaining interesting without ever being like stamping all over everything and fits around. Particularly conscious of where the vocal is and what it does, and never stomping all over that at any point, and then doing it with a sort of an identifiable voice and personality, because that's what attracts me.
Is there a moment that you could think of, sort of whether it be presumably growing up and when you started getting into music and realising that is what you wanted to do, and particularly with the drums, but also in terms of forging your style as a drummer? Is there a moment or two moments where you think that is what I want to be, that's what I want to do? I
think it's quite interesting. Every drum, you can ask this question at any drummer and get a completely different answer. But again, what I said about the songwriting thing, what goes in is what comes out. And for me, I started off as a rock drummer pretty much. So it was all Queen, Chili Peppers, Rage Against the Machine, even old rock records of my dad's, Deep Purple and all that, those kind of things, Bad Company and all those sorts of things. And then my uncle sort of started sending me cassettes of kind of the likes of Dave Weckl, Vinnie Colaiuta and all that stuff. So I went through that phase of listening to all those guys. But then, but with the likes of Vinnie Colaiuta, for instance, obviously John Patitucci records and things like that, actually he's playing on Ten Summoners Tales, you know, with Sting, that's what drew me to that. And then the sort of more songwriting based approach of constructing parts around the song, but then doing it within that Vinnie way, where you'd get the odd feel where you go, wow, you know, that absolutely, and it's never completely over the top. I mean, you know, something like 7 Days beautifully supports the song whilst being absolutely astounding astoundingly played, and then as a part it's beautiful and lyrical and all those things. So that those sorts of things, and then I just sort of started getting into funk and soul and all those things at college, and then into university. You know, you sort of branch out lots of different things. So I got into jazz and I love that, but I found for me that my brain doesn't work in the right way for it, and because it's so ingrained in me to have that kick hi-hat snare backbeat thing, that because jazz is so focused on the ride, and it's all driven from there, and the feet, well, obviously hi-hat, foot, but the kick and snare are so much less to do with it, and they're more for sort of accenting things, and I'm kind of, my approach is the other way around. So I love jazz, but at one point I sort of felt like I either needed to completely change my approach if I wanted to do that, or give up on the idea of ever being a so-called jazzer, because I wasn't sure what I wanted in my early 20s kind of thing. But
I love hearing you say about that, the Ten Summoners Tales record, because for me that was a big record for me as well. Hearing that cassette tape in my dad's car, and I was just, oh my god, what is this drumming? And it's just incredible what it teaches you, I think, about how to compose drum parts for the music, but in a classy, brilliant way as well. I think that was great to hear that. That brings us, I suppose, to as well, the release you have today. I got that release recently on vinyl, which brought it out again to me in a totally new way. And that's what you've done. You've brought out this record that you're touring now as a double vinyl, as well as the CD pack as well. So, and this tour then in support of that. What has that been like for you to, firstly, I suppose, in terms of the re-release of this record and hearing it on vinyl, those songs which you did 12 years ago, I suppose, but the songs actually were written more than 12 years ago, of course, as well. Yeah. To hear them give a new life like that, first of all, what's that been like?
It's great. Yeah, it's a lovely thing, because I mean, you know, I don't think many people go around listening to their own music all the time, particularly when it's, you know, 12 years old. Go around listening to your own albums, but yeah, so I hadn't heard it for quite a long time, and actually, because on this tour we're playing we're playing the whole album, and so that involves album tracks we haven't played. I don't think there's anything we've never played, but stuff we haven't played in a long time anyway, since we would have first toured that record in 2006-07, and then we wouldn't have played some of those songs since then. So I had to kind of relearn it actually, and sometimes I remember what happened, particularly on extended guitar outros and stuff, and go, what fills did I play there? And all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's been quite enjoyable to relearn it and try and get into the mindset I was when I recorded it, because a lot of it I did when I would have been what age, 24 or something like that, 23, 24, 25, and it's, you know, it's quite. I feel like I'm a different musician, different drummer now, but that doesn't mean I regret anything I played on there. But it's interesting to relearn it and then have to sort of, you know, recreate it again.
That's an interesting point in terms of going back to stuff that you played years and years ago, and no doubt I'm sure most drummers would say, you know, their playing has evolved, their influences change, their priorities change in terms of what they drum on. Are you looking to recreate the drum parts you played as you did play them on that record here, or are there things you say, well, actually, I think it would be better if I did this now? Is that a way you're looking at it?
It is, I would say, live it's probably 95% the same, and the reason for that is that the way we constructed most of the album was that the drums went down first and then bass went on afterwards. They weren't done at the same time, but Richard's kind of a kind of closet drummer anyway, and he loves drums, and so he would listen very carefully to sort of particularly rhythmically what I'd done in certain fills, and then would make sure that the bass part fit perfectly around that. So in a song like Sown, you know, it's a 6-minute long song that has an guitar outro that's kind of 2 minutes long, and every fill that happens in that outro, the bass and drums go together. So if I start changing that at any point, if I had at any point in the last 10 years, 12 years, or I did tonight, it would screw him up, and then it wouldn't work with his bass part. So there's a couple of moments when I can sort of do something different. It won't affect anyone else, but a lot of the time it is very considered and very sort of constructed in a certain way.
I suppose for the audience as well, these were such massive hits and still are listened to and mean a great deal to the people listening. I read somewhere, it's true, that you were the most played band in 2006 on UK radio, for example. So a lot of people have heard these songs. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people throughout this tour who are here, and they want to hear those songs as they were then. So I suppose keeping that consistency from then is an important part of the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's been to gigs and seen an artist play a song that is maybe their most famous song or something, and because it's the one that they have to play all the time, they're a bit bored with it or whatever, and they've done something new. Hey, we've done a remix version or something, and you just think, what have you done? You know, I just want to hear it the way it was because it was great, and we don't want to fall in that trap. So I think, with the exception of, you know, the odd sort of moments of crowd participation, adding bits in, we've not changed anything to make a song sort of unrecognisable or anything like that. And I mean, like you say, we respect the fact that people are coming along to hear those songs as they were. So, you know, hopefully be the same.
Paul, you've been so kind to come in and speak to us. You've been also kind to offer us a tour of your kit later on as well. So I won't get into details of the equipment here, but just briefly, you're a Gresh artist, and just talk to us just a little bit in general about that choice as well for you.
Yeah, I mean, much like as we were talking about the sort of drummers that I like and the having that influence, which is kind of quite heavily 60s, 70s based and stuff like that. Those drum sounds are the ones that influence me heavily, and so you know, that kind of a company with that kind of heritage and that kind of character and warmth in the drums is exactly what I was after. So I play broadcaster kit, which is currently just a four-piece kit, 22, 13, 16, 14 by 6 snare, and they are beautiful. It's the best kit I've ever had, and it's very pretty. And yeah, Zildjian cymbals, Kuroke mostly, except for K light hats, 15 light hats, but yeah, everything else Kuroke, and that's it. I've got a SPDSX Roland pad, and yeah, that's it.
Well, we look forward to seeing that in more detail later. 14-night tour, is that right? Ending in Shepherd's Bush, which I think is one of your favourite venues to play as well. So
yeah.
Cardiff, I'm sure, will be fantastic for you tonight as well. But
yeah, I've already been there, and it sounds the rooms it's a really nice room. So
right.
yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Good to hear. Well, thanks so much for taking the time out of your day, and have a great show tonight. Thanks a lot.
You.
Cheers.
Thank you.